Bloomfield Hills City Commission meeting. Please rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Less, it's not a large
I'm just saying it's like $59 per quarter times.
Some are larger,
Okay.
but they were all year. Some residents like it just to roll to their taxes. They would rather pay it that way. I've seen repeat residents do that. So sometimes it's just 1 quarter and then sometimes it's for the full year.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Alice? Any other issues? May I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda for May 13th, 2025 as presented?
Move to approve.
So moved. Second?
Second.
Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Consent agenda is approved. I'd like to take a minute to introduce our new city attorney, Mark Roberts. We're thrilled to have you part of the team. Thank you very much for your input. And now we'd like to recognize citizens in the audience. We'll open the floor to public comments. If there's anyone in the audience who wishes to address the council, please step forward, state your name and your address for the record, and please limit your remarks to 3 minutes. Thank you. Any of you like to? Okay. Guess we'll move on. The commission will now hear an introduction from Chief King welcoming Public Safety Officer Jeff Slick.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Commissioners Baxter, Buckley, and Fisher, City Manager Hendrickson, and all city staff. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. It's a great day for the Public Safety Department, and it is my pleasure to introduce our newest member of our Bloomfield Hills Public Safety Department, PSO Jeff Slick.
Great.
A little background on Jeff. Jeff graduated from Dearborn High School in 2004. He spent several years in sales before deciding to pursue a career in public safety. He attended Siena Heights University, graduating with an associate's degree in general studies in 2017. That same year, he achieved his state certifications in firefighter 1, 2, and hazmat operations. Additionally, he obtained his state certificate for law enforcement from both the Oakland Police Academy. This is a rather unique situation for us. As many of you are aware, Jeff previously served with our agency as a public safety officer and a fire inspector from 2017 to 2023. He then transitioned to Berkeley Public Safety for 2 years, where he spent his assignment there in road patrol in the operations section. And then I believe he made an exceptional decision, supported by some loved ones and family members and friends, to rejoin the Bloomfield Hills Public Safety Department, the best public safety department on the face of this earth.
Yes.
While serving with both the Berkeley Public Safety Department and the Bloomfield Hills Public Safety Department, Jeff has been described by his coworkers as an outstanding public safety officer with unquestionable integrity, exceptional work ethic, and a passion for public safety, which brings us here tonight. I can attest throughout this entire hiring process. It started pretty recently. I was impressed with Jeff's constant commitment not only to the men and women of our department, but the citizens of Bloomfield Hills as a whole. And with him being back here, I believe we are going to be a better agency for it. So earlier this month, Clerk Burton administered Jeff his official oath of office. And tonight, I have the distinct honor to pin his badge. Ladies and gentlemen,
yeah.
ladies and gentlemen, Public Safety Officer Jeff Flynn.
Yes, I'll say a couple things. First, I just want to thank Chief King, City Manager, and the Commission for giving me a second opportunity. This city is by far the best city in the world as far as I'm concerned, and it's a blessing and honor to be able to serve for the city of Bloomfield Hills, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming back. I'd like to shake your hand, thank you.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
Welcome back as resident. Welcome back.
Thank you for that presentation. The commission will now hear a presentation from MDOT on their Woodward Avenue Culvert project.
Mayor, if you would mind, I just want to mention, I asked David Anderson and Jordan Rukowski if I'm to come in here to explain a meeting Amy and I had recently with NDOT regarding a culvert replacement on the Woodward. And this is just south of Hickory Grove. They'll go through the whole thing, but it's going to be a significant impact on traffic and our city. I just thought it was the right thing for them to come in and really explain it, give the commission an opportunity to ask some specific questions. I had some specific questions, and those questions are answered in the presentation, but you may have more questions. We understand this is going to be a big impact. We believe that the way that they want to do this is the most appropriate way to do it, but you know, the commission may have different feelings about it. Go ahead, Jordan. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
So like he said, I'm Jordan Rakowski. This is David Annison. We work out of the Oakland TSC with MDOT. And we're here about a full culvert replacement under Woodward. So this is the location. This is a zoomed out view of it. It's south of Square Lake, south of Hickory Grove, right in the city. This is more zoomed in. The culvert is right next to that condominium right there. It's the only drive in and out, and it's just north of the Roper schools. Spans the entire length of Woodward. And if you drive there today, you can see that the pavement above the culvert has cracks, which shows that there is structural distress. And underneath it, our recent inspection report showed spalling on the concrete ceiling and the culvert joints. The tap locations are spalling and losing contact with each other, which basically means the culvert is in poor condition and needs a full replacement. So a little bit of facts about this culvert. The 10-year storm flow is 300 cubic feet per second. 50-year storm is 445 cubic feet per second, and 100-year storm is 525 cubic feet per second. When they inspected this culvert, they found that the current size of 11 by 17 feet is too small, and so we are going to be putting in a 20 by 10 foot box culvert in order to contain the amount of flow that goes through it, make sure it doesn't flood. Yes, it's very large.
Can I, it's not 20 feet high.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
Underground, yeah.
Wow, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So it's currently 11 feet high and 17 feet left to right.
Yes.
And it's gonna be 20 feet high. Or, excuse me, yeah, 20 feet high now.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. They're much deeper than you think they are. And then a couple of restrictions we have in this area is there's fishery restrictions from March 1st all the way to the end of June, which means we are not allowed to touch or move the water for most of our regular construction season, as you see here. And there's also Dream Cruise on Woodward, which is the third weekend of August, which we do not want to impact as well. So a couple of the maintenance of traffic options we went through, one was crossovers, where we would cross over one direction of traffic onto the opposite bound. It would allow for 2 lanes open in one direction and 1 lane open in the opposite direction. That would span all the way from north of Long Lake to north of Square Lake, which means Hickory Grove and Square Lake would both have to be managed with the traffic being held just on one bound, which would be extremely impactful. Because of that, we chose not to choose that option. It would also rip out a lot of the medians and the big trees that are there. We thought it was too impactful, and we didn't like that option. The next one we looked at was partial lane closures. This, again, would be 2 to 3 years of construction with only one lane open in each direction. Because of the amount of traffic impacts, we thought this was also not the best option. Our preferred option that we're going with is a 3.5-month full detour. And while it is a full detour, it would only be 3.5 months, and Woodward would be fully open and restored by Dream Cruise. This is our tentative construction dates. There would be a single to double lane closure from October to November in 2026, and then single to double lane closures for some small sanitary sewer and water main relocations in March to July of 2027. And the bulk of the work would be done from August to December of 2027. And that would be when the full detour would be in effect, just not in the area of the detour. And then we've shown that we know a lot of local traffic will most likely take Long Lake because that is a very long detour. Without the road commission's permission, we can't list it as the official detour, but this is what a lot of the residents will most likely take, is Square Lake to Telegraph to Long Lake. We understand that this is the only driveway into the condominium, which is right next to the culvert. It will be open at all times. The residents will always be able to get into their homes. They'll be able to come the opposite way down Woodward and use this crossover to get into their homes. And we also plan to build a temporary crossover for the Roper School so they can get in and turn around and then go back south when leaving. And that's what I have.
So you're proposing a single lane for while you do the prep work?
It would be 2 to 3 lanes open
Okay.
in each direction.
And how long would that be for?
It would be about a month at the end of 2026. And then from April to so they'll have to make either detours or turn around there and come as far as they can. We would work with them. We've worked with them before, just let them know when it's happening. And they kind of set their own detour and schedule. Usually when we've talked to them, they communicate it with who they usually have on the buses, and we kind of leave it up to them, or we help them if they want us to, but in the past they have made their own schedule for their buses.
No good way around that.
I know, it's not a lot of good options, but we have to get to the culvert, so we're trying to find the best way to do that.
And you'll put all the trees, everything in the median will be repaired and back?
Yes, it will affect as minimal amount in the median as we can, and we'll repair anything we have to remove. Mm-hmm.
And replant?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you for your presentation and clarifying it, and
Yes.
you could assist with us communicating it. Do you have print material or
Yeah, as it gets
emails we can
closer,
send?
As it gets closer, we'll keep in communication with them, and then we'll put it in our newsletter, we'll send a newsletter out, and we'll put it on the website, and if the commission wants, we can even send an actual, letter out to all residents if you want.
Makes sense. How do you all feel about that?
I think it's, of the 3 options, I like the one you picked.
I do as well.
Yeah.
But do you all think it'd be important to send a letter to all the residents informing them, or they can just, so they know in advance? And
It's not a great message, but
right.
It needs
It's
to be.
unavoidable. Right.
It's unavoidable.
needs to be done.
Well, thank you for all your presentation and your preparation.
Yeah, no problem. We really want to work together to make this as smooth as possible because I know it's going to be super impactful. So let us know if you have any concerns. So,
Will do. Thank you.
yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it. The commission will now hear a presentation from the Finance Director Treasurer, Sandra Barlask, on the fiscal year 2025-2026 budget. We'll conduct a public hearing on this annual budget and consider the adoption of the general appropriations budget resolution for the 2025-26 year.
Thank you.
Thank you. All your hard work.
Oh, great. So good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I appreciate the opportunity to present the 2026 budget. Tonight's presentation is just going to be a quick overview because we already went through the whole budget last month, and there's going to be no changes from our discussions last month with one exception. So Dave had sent out in his weekly report concerning Oakland County assessing. So our fees, we found out after our meeting last month that they're going to increase by 42%. So that equates to roughly $20,000. So tonight's presentation will include that additional $20,000 as well as the resolution that's before you for consideration.
Just so you know, all the other cities in our county are impacted by that as well.
Yes, it is not just a Bloomfield Hills increase. All communities that they serve also had an increase. So we're looking at options. We're gonna look to see if there's other options with assessing. We've used Oakland County for many years, but we'll do our due diligence to see if there is any other option. And once we do, we'll bring it to you. Okay. So this is our general fund, or I'm sorry, our governmental funds. Just a quick overview of total revenues and total expenditures. Our governmental funds is basically all of our funds, everything that we have that runs the city, excluding water and sewer. So that's an enterprise fund, so that is always handled separately. But the governmental funds is everything else. Just a couple things I want to point out on this page is the general fund. In that first column, we're expecting to add to our fund balance at $488,804 at the end of the year. And then the local roads and major roads, we will be using a portion of the fund balance for a road construction project, and I'll touch on that in a minute. And then, as I mentioned last month at the budget meeting, this federal construction grant fund is a new fund that we created for the $1 million grant that we received. That way we can track everything separately. So this is our total revenue, our proposed revenue of $16,534,000. Our property taxes is the majority of that, roughly 77%. Usually it's in the 80-some%, but because of that $1 million federal grant, it just pulled it down a little bit. But we're actually collecting about 5% additional in property tax revenue. So we also get state revenue sharing, that's about 7%. The license and permits is the building department collection for the most part. And then charges for services and other revenue makes up about 5%. And then that federal grant will be 6% of our revenue. And property taxes. So I showed you this last month. Our taxable value post March Board of Review with some adjustments. We have a $1.162 billion taxable revenue. So that should bring in a total revenue of this, right there, that $1,716,000 overall. So we're gonna keep our millage, our operating millage the same as it has been at 10.6, just divided between the general fund and then a portion to the road construction fund. And then the library millage will stay the same at 0.36. So overall, our revenue has increased to almost 5% for the taxes. And then our expenditures, where does our money go? I'll touch on each of these that's in the right-hand column over there, but the majority is our operating expenses, 56%. That makes up our personnel, but also assessing and engineering and the building department, legal, everything that's required to operate the city. So that's the largest expense. And then we have our legacy costs, the capital purchases, debt obligation, and the infrastructure improvement. So again, I'm going to touch on each of those. So our legacy costs were always required by MERS to make a contribution. This coming year will be 1.9 roughly million that we must contribute. And then our OPEB, which is our other post-employment benefits, our retiree medical, is a pay-as-you-go. So we pay the claims and the premiums, and we're expected about $661,000. But we also have the discretionary, as you know, you have committed $500,000 for pension and $500,000 for OPEB. So each of those discretionary contributions will help us become fully funded faster. So that is good. So our total contribution towards these two will be $3.581 million in the coming year. And this is our debt obligation. You can see we have only 9 more payments, which is great. This is for our pension that was taken out in 2014. So we will be about 1.1 million each year for the next 9 years. So the light's at the end of the tunnel, so to speak, on getting this paid off. And capital purchases. I'm not going to go into each one because we already did that last month, but if anyone's interested, we will have our capital improvement plan booklet on our website that will not only give more detail for this upcoming year, but the following 4 years as well. So if anyone is interested, but the total expense here is $469,100. We have a little additional for some of the financing of our fire truck and our sweeper truck that will be transferred from the general fund to the capital improvement. And we have 4 infrastructure projects, 2 are road projects. One is Losser Road from East Long Lake to Hickory Grove. And then we have that local roads fund project, which is the Yarborough, Joyce Court, and a portion of Harlan. So that'll be funded by the local roads, where the Losser will be from city operating revenue that goes to the capital, or excuse me, goes to the construction fund. And then the other 2 is the Chesterfield Bridge Culvert Project. That's that $1 million grant that I discussed earlier. Where we're at with that right now, it's in the environmental review. They've had a few other things that they needed to review in the process, so I think it'll be a couple more months before that process is done. But the plan is to get this project bidded and the construction before the end of fiscal 26. So, and then the sanitary sewer pipelining, you know about that. That one is already, it's out to bid right now, and that'll be completed in this upcoming fiscal year as well at $1.2 million. Our fund balance, this is just the general fund. You can see that it is healthy and growing. So this is based on what we know today. This is based on what, taking a look back, that our revenues is growing faster or higher than our expenditures have been over the years, so that is the projection moving forward as well. And you can see that our unassigned fund balance as a percentage of expenditures is well above, as that black line, is well above the 30 to 35% policy. So we'll see where we land. This is just a projection of what we know today, but we have a very healthy fund balance. And then water and sewer, last but certainly not least, the rates will be presented at next month's meeting. We've had discussions and we're pretty certain where those will be presented, but we're finishing that up. And like I said, it'll be presented next month. And then we have our final payment to the water bond, which is great. So then we only have one bond overall on the books. And we already talked about the sanitary sewer rehabilitation. So that is it for the water and sewer. And hopefully I didn't go too fast, but I think that you had all the information from our last meeting. So I just wanted to give you a quick recap. So
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for all your hard work putting that together. Do we need to do a formal resolution, Dave? Or-
You have to open the public. Yes. Open the public hearing, then call roll call.
So what do I do here?
Open the public hearing, ask if anybody wants to speak.
Okay,
When everybody's done speaking, close the public hearing, then take the action.
okay, I'd like to formally open a public meeting. Would anyone like to speak regarding the budget? Clearly no, so close the open meeting and move on with our city commission meeting. Is that proper? Thank you.
Now you move on to the resolution.
Okay, so the commission would like to make a general appropriation budget resolution and pass the 2025-26 annual budget as presented.
I move that we approve and adopt the Bloomfield Hills General Appropriations Act resolution included in the agenda packet for this meeting as written.
Second,
Here?
all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please signify by saying no. Resolutions passed. Thank you very much. And thank you for providing that motion. The commission will now hear the city manager's comments.
Thank you, Mayor. A few things I wanted to talk about. Hope you don't mind. So first of all, I took last week off out of town on an important trip, and I wanted just to kind of
Yeah, thank you. Just want to recognize Amy Burton for doing a great job running the city operations while I was gone. Of course, she's got a great team behind her with Sandra and Director King, Brian, Jamie from our DPW, but I just want to recognize her for doing a great job and not calling me too much. Thank you. Although she did call me a couple times. Another thing I wanted to talk about was a few things. I wanted to kind of update the commission on, I'll do that right now. I want to update the commission on our goals, just to kind of let you folks know where we're at. So one of the goals that we have is to develop a policy to ensure proper oversight of construction approved by the Planning Commission and ZBA. So sometimes there's questions about if things are getting followed up on, if people are actually doing what was approved. And so we have a policy, it's in place, and I think it's working. There was actually at the city commission, or at the planning commission meeting, one of the planning commissioners mentioned that she believed one site was not being followed up on, so I appreciate that, and we're gonna check that out. We're gonna compare it to the motion, and get that done. So I wanted to update you on that. We also had a goal of building department accreditation. We've kind of looked at this pretty hard. It's expensive. We have a small building department, but I believe we've learned a great deal, and we may end up just recognizing all the work that we've completed through policy and best practices to memorialize what we've done to make the department successful, and Brian's done a great job in helping along with that, so we appreciate that. Other goal is to provide fiber optics solution for residential properties, and the commission knows about MetroNet and the infrastructure. They're rolling rolling along with that, getting the proper permits, and we'll keep the commission informed about all that, and we'll certainly make sure that we have the appropriate communication.
So is MetroNet like the golden child? We didn't interview different options?
No.
or-
So how it works is, it's a great question because, and I believe the mayor knows that there's another organization that was interested in this, and they want to talk with us. We're going to meet with them, but really, I think it's based upon the Metro Act and folks being able to get the permits to install the infrastructure. And when the infrastructure is installed, then they can ask the folks in the city if they want to belong to their organization. So that's really how it works. And the sales part really has nothing to do with us, although we'll make sure that that's done appropriately and does not disrupt the community any more than it needs to. They promised us to keep in good communication with us.
So the commission didn't have to select a company that was authorized to put all that infrastructure in?
Now, not with the Metro Act. There's this, it's a new law, and all they have to do is to follow that law and get the appropriate permits, and they've done that through our attorneys, through Sechrist Wardle. I don't know if you want to explain it any better, Mark.
I think that sums it up well. The Metro Act it's basically an act to formalize how private companies access the right of way to install these types of projects. And there's a process to be followed, and they've been following it, and it's moving along.
So if this other company follows it and does all the proper protocol, are we gonna have more infrastructure and more of those boxes and lines so that?
AT&T is already here. We had fiber brought to our house a couple of years ago.
Sure.
From AT&T.
Right, but I just,
Yeah, it's a good question.
I mean, is there any
There'll be more competition.
limit on how many of these companies can put all of these?
I don't think there is. I don't think there is a limit, is there?
I think the limit is going to be the availability of the infrastructure, because most of these companies are mounting their equipment on existing poles. Very few new poles are being installed. So, I mean, just physically, there's a limitation on how much equipment can be put on a pole, so.
They have to get the approval of DTE poles to do that, so I would.
Totally private.
I would imagine there'd be a limit, yeah. I'm not sure if it'd be 2 or.
I think the market will limit it to some extent as well. I mean, there's only so many.
The demand, yeah.
Yeah, so.
So the first ones here are kind of.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you for clarifying that.
Another thing I want to mention is our ordinance organizational tool that we mentioned. Clear zoning is one of them. But we did put that out to bid. I reported in one of my weekly reports that we had only 3 companies provide a response to the RFP that we sent out. And we have evaluated 2 of these companies, and we plan to bring that information to the commission next month. So what we did is we just got the entire staff, anybody that would be involved in this, and just sat through these presentations. But, you know, it's the commission's decision of which company to pick. So there's a web-based company, and then there's the other one's a PDF. And so price is pretty similar. There's a lot of questions, and what we want to do is bring that to you. You saw one of the presentations, but we thought we'd maybe even let you see the other presentation with a web-based company, and then that might help you ask some questions and make some decisions. And that's our plan for June. One of the goals is the new audiovisual technology, which has been completed. It's in this room. Annual training for boards and commissions. So what we've done is I've done a lot of research on this, but I have to talk to our city attorney who's new. And what the plan, I think, the best approach would be is to first talk with Mark about this, review some things, and then I was hoping we could meet with the planning chair and the ZBA chair and just kind of go over the training, and we plan to do the training next month at the actual meetings. So I haven't had a chance to talk to you about it at all, and we'll discuss it, and our plans are to also discuss it with the chairs of both the ZBA and the Planning Commission. Then there's another attached goal to this, which is to have sort of a reference documents, and we plan to create that also, but provide that after the training is done, and provides kind of a do's and don'ts list.
Kind of a quick reference. that
Quick reference for
Brought up.
folks, and
That's a good idea.
yeah, and then if new folks come in, and just have a do's and don'ts of how all the stuff runs, and I think it's just going to be basic stuff about roles, responsibilities, authority, motions, and like in the planning commission meeting, there was some discussion on how to formulate a motion and when to do this and that. So we hope to try to help with all that. And then the last goal is to create a community engagement program, which Chief King here is going to be hosting in September. So we had 12 goals, and we got 8 of them underway and some of those completed. I want to just give you an update on that. And the last thing I want to talk about is there's been some resident concerns about coyotes. We've had some recent concerns in the city, and I was talking with Amy and the chief about this, and we have this sort of process that we have, but I don't know if the residents feel like we're paying enough attention to them on this. And so we thought about what we could do, and we think maybe communication and more engagement about it. I had the chief review everything that we've done since I've been involved in 2013, and give his opinion on things, review all the policies and the practices. And I was going to ask him to come in June and sort of just talk about all of it and get your input, because you folks represent the residents, and we want to make sure that you're happy too. Sometimes we like to get things done, and we try to provide the appropriate service, but at the same time, we want to make sure that you're comfortable and the residents are comfortable, because we can tell them, well, this is how you do things, this is how we're doing, this is why we're doing it. But recently we just thought maybe we just there's not many resident concerns. Traffic on Woodward is a resident concern, so I think we did a good job just kind of attacking that, and we want to do the same thing with this coyote thing. But I don't know if you have any comments at all.
I can say in support of City Manager Hendrickson's comments. I did review what this agency has done since 2013. No city responds to this issue like we do. We exceed what our responses are to the citizen concerns. We can always do more, but we are doing far more than what typical cities around us are doing to us. With our protocols, our area searches, resident concerns, resident conversations, and like the city manager said, he came up with a great idea that we were going to do a little bit more outreach, and we were going to present this at a later time, and it was first going to go through the commission. But I don't think there's anything more we can do right now until we have that meeting and we have the discussion. And I'm happy with what our officers are doing.
I just had a thought in Florida, it was in the news that they're doing this new app that if there's a shark in the water, it alerts all of the cell phones within the area, because some girl lost her leg and she wouldn't have had to if she had known there was a shark attack 100 yards down or a mile down. I wonder if we could encourage Redgate area or any of these communities. They have those text chains within their community that maybe they could, is there a way to encourage them to alert their neighbors? I spotted a coyote, bring your dog inside, or something to help them help themselves as well?
Well, what we thought about doing is we wanted to wait for Commissioner McCarthy to be here before we talked about this fully, because
Right.
she's
really concerned.
She's really concerned about this. But one of the ideas is to have a sort of a public meeting, public forum, so people can just talk about it. And maybe if we just talked about it, I'm not sure if things will change, but, you know, part of this whole process is just to make people feel like they're heard. And so I think maybe we just need to spend more time at doing that.
I've lived here a long time, and there have always been coyotes that come and go. Sometimes where I don't see a coyote for months and months, and then I see them. And they've never really come close. I mean, we live in a very wide open area. They don't really come close. And I think that part of the problem is if you let your dog run out loose, they'll chase after. They'll see a coyote and chase after and perhaps provoke an attack. I just think people need to know that they have to be wary all the time of coyotes, because there's always a possibility that they're there lurking, and you really have to protect your animals. You have to. You can't let them go outside by themselves. They have, even just opening your door and standing there, you can't do it, because the dog could run after a coyote. It could, they think it's another dog. You have to be proactive. And there'll always be coyotes here. I mean, we can kill them, we can trap them, and there'll be more. They're everywhere. I mean, that's my personal feeling, but, and people should not be feeding them. They shouldn't be throwing food out.
Yeah, all the points that you just stated is all the things that we talk about, and I think we just need to keep talking about it.
And I think your approach to making them feel heard, and I don't think they would appreciate being told that it's their fault that their dog, there was a dog who was in the hospital last week.
It's not their fault, but you have to be careful. You really do, because they are here. They're here all the time. You just don't see them. I mean, I'm not suggesting it's their fault. I'm just saying people need to, like, our next door neighbors have a invisible fence, and every time I see a coyote, I tell them, don't let your dog out, because they aren't protecting them.
Well, I told the chief he's got to limit this to 10 minutes of what we've done, and then once he's done with that, then we'll talk about it.
Sounds like it might be a little longer.
Yeah.
I would like to say there was, I know you're not done, but I've had a couple residents say they think the noise is better on Woodward, so thank you for all your efforts regarding that.
We've heard the same thing. Yeah. So I think the public safety department did a good job.
Can you remind me, was there state legislature that was helpful? I know we reached out to the senators and.
We never did get a. We never. There was never a law that was passed that helped us out, unfortunately. But I can attribute, I think, some of this, in my opinion, as I appreciate the chief's requirement of road patrol cars out all day, and that makes the big difference, because if you're visible, it's all about visibility. Visibility is the deterrence, and so he's doing a great job of making sure that occurs.
Thank you very much. Great.
That's all I have. So thank you for.
Thank you. The commission will consider any other business. Commissioner Fisher, anyone?
I have some other business. I'd like to give a short presentation on some sign options. Do we have this queued up on the? I know we're at the end of the meeting, and I'll try to make this somewhat short and sweet, but I think this goes back to, I don't know how long ago this came up, but there was a complaint, I think from one of the residents that came through one of our commissioners, that there was some lack of visibility on signs at night. And this got me thinking about what could we do, as an option to replace signs that are not very visible at night, don't have that reflective characteristic, but still have the rustic characteristic of some of the wood plank signs that are already out there. We've got quite a combination of signs already in the city, and I thought I would walk through kind of the existing state, and then we can talk a little bit about some of the samples that I've created and what might be something that we could look at for the future. So first of all, in the research that I did, which was somewhat limited, but I tried to find the oldest signs in the city, and through the help of Dave and Amy, they provided some photographs and some information as well. And then doing some research on the internet, I found that the signs that we have in the city, the Falmouth Drive and Bennington Drive sign there, and the Canterbury Crescent, those are almost identical to the sign that you see on the left there. That's a 1920s road sign that somebody's trying to sell on eBay. And that almost exactly matches the signs, if not exactly matches the signs that you see around the city. So I'm not sure if these are the oldest signs in the city, but they are quite old. And the way they're constructed, and you can see on the picture on the right, is that there's two metal signs kind of back to back, and the bracketry is what holds them apart and separate. And it gives it that thicker look when you're looking at the sign. And so when these metal signs, and this is just my theory, is when the metal signs go bad or are damaged, I think some of them have been replaced with wooden planks, which kind of simulate that thickness that the two metal signs offset represent. So again, just a theory, but yeah, I wanted to point out that I'm not sure that the wooden signs are necessarily the oldest signs in the city. Let's see, just page to the next. Yes, okay. So another example of a wooden sign that actually Dave and Amy brought this to my attention, and I used to live on Hunt Club Drive, so I should have known this, but this is an interesting sign. It's a wooden sign made from 2x6 planking, and it's actually it has raised letters which are carved on the wood, which is actually a much more difficult process than just carving the woods directly into the wood in a concave manner. So, but the text is certainly highly visible. I'm not sure the age of this sign, but it's it's definitely been up there for quite a while. So just another example of a wooden sign within the city. And here we have a more recent version of the wooden plank sign, which is essentially a 2x6 painted black with vinyl letters placed on it. Some of the letters appear to be reflective. Some of them, I'm not sure if they are reflective, but I know that some of them are. I've seen them up close, and they do have some reflective properties. Interestingly, you can also see that the finial and the bracketry on these signs matches the finial and the bracketry on the 1920s metal signs. So again, going back to what I mentioned as a theory of when these metal signs go bad or are damaged, they're being replaced by they were replaced by the wooden plank signs. That may be where the wooden plank signs began. It's hard to say, when they came about, but we do have quite a bit of them in the city. So it's a combination of these wooden plank signs and the old metal signs, and then a few of the new metal signs. So now we get into some of the newer signs. Sign on the left there, the Bennington Rudgate sign. This is a few years old, maybe not even that old. It's a fairly modern, sort of a minimalistic approach. We still have the black and the gold, which is great, but the lettering is still sort of that smaller vinyl. I think it's vinyl, not sure. Vinyl lettering.
Those metal on the left?
Those, the Rudgate Bennington sign, that's metal. Yeah, you can see it's a thin profile. So one thing I wanted to point out is, getting back to the visibility aspect, I've noticed that a lot of the signs that have the letters that are placed onto the sign, whether they're wooden or metal, tend to be a little bit smaller than what you would normally see on a street sign. When you go back to street signs from the 20s and even today, they tend to be this much more vertical aspect ratio. The letters are a little bit further spaced apart in some cases, and so I think a lot of that has to do with visibility from the road and visibility at some level of speed, because the vertical aspect ratio of the text, I think, is easier to read as you're moving. Just something to keep in mind as we move forward and look into replacing these signs. And then another type that I found was this metal sign, which is Breton Lane, and these signs are much better for visibility. The lettering is much larger, and I believe there is a reflective characteristic to these. They also have the city emblem or logo placed on them. Somehow I cropped that out of the picture, but I just placed an image there so you can see what it would look like if it was on the sign. So this really was just an attempt to walk you through everything that already exists in the city. So as we replace signs, one of the things I'm thinking about is how do we replace these signs as they go bad such that we can start to have the replacement signs will fit in with what's already there and yet become an improvement over what we've had. So blending in, becoming an improvement, and then maybe adding a little bit of a historic flair to the signs. So what I did is I went ahead and created a design because I knew that if we were going to outsource this to a vendor, we had to create some kind of design that they could quote to, and that we had something that if I'm not around and somebody else wants to go back and refer to, what were the requirements of the sign, what were the dimensions, that kind of thing. We've got a drawing here that you can go back to. So the first spec drawing was sent out to vendors for quote. After working with a couple of different vendors, I landed on one that was very responsive, very willing to help me with this project, and I found their pricing to be quite reasonable. I was very surprised at how inexpensive it was to get such a nice sign. I'm not sure what we're paying currently for metal signs, but I found this wooden example that you'll see more of here shortly. I found it to be quite reasonable for what we were getting. One of the big differences in the sample that was created is that going back to the reflectivity aspect, I wanted to make sure that the lettering was reflective and that you could see this at night. And one of the aspects of that is retroreflective. And so what is retroreflective? Retroreflective is a reflection of the light back to the source, directly back to the source. So that's especially useful in traffic and road signs and traffic control devices and lane markings and things like that, because the light that's emanating from your vehicle, from the headlights, is going to be reflected right back to you. And that's done through these glass beads that are actually embedded in the paint. It's actually a very easy and simple process to do this, and I built a prototype, which you see in the lower right-hand corner there, which is you just pour the glass beads onto the wet paint, and the glass beads become embedded in the paint. And after the paint dries, they're stuck, and they create a very reflective surface. Here's the test site that we put up a couple of signs just to see how they would look for scale and for reflectivity at night. This is at Canterbury and Burnham Road. You can see there in the middle picture, there's the daylight image of the road sign, and then at night you see the reflectivity of the sign is quite good. I think there's a deer in that picture too. On the left-hand side is the sign, prior to replacement, which was, definitely needing replacement at that point, so it was a good place to try the test. You can see the lettering is kind of peeling off on the upper sign, and if you look carefully, you can see that there's a texture to the stick-on letters that leads me to believe that they are somewhat reflective, but I'm not sure all signs have that. So these are the signs, the samples that I put together. Two of them are already up. The Canterbury Road and the Burnham Road are up in that test site, as you saw. Trowbridge Road is here tonight for you to take a look at. This is a Shannon font. It's just something I picked out for the test. Doesn't mean this is what we have to use. The one thing I want to mention is that any font is possible. I mean, you could have anything here. That's the beauty of the CNC machines that make these signs. You could have any font that you'd want. As I've looked at these and as I've viewed them from the road, I've kind of backed away from some of my earlier choices, and I think that going simple is better, and going with something that's highly visible, very simple and easy to see and understand. These are great fonts, but using them for road signs is maybe not the best application. So just to kind of wrap this up, and then we'll move to the physical samples. These are some of the fonts that we considered, and some of them are a little bit more, fancy, probably too fancy for a road sign. Some of them would be just fine. The one that I've been leaning toward is the dealer plate California, which is really a typical road sign kind of font. But again, I think this is a decision that if the commission believes this is a good direction to go in as far as the sign construction, the specs around it, I mean, the font is something that's easily changed. But I would say that once the choice is made, we should probably stick with it so that there's consistency within the city. And my vision for this project would be as a incremental replacement program. So as signs need to be replaced, they would be replaced with this wooden sign, and over time, the consistency would build in this type of sign. We've got quite a few metal signs going up, so I don't know if this is all for us to decide later, but we could maybe look into trying to get back to the wooden plank signs throughout the city, maybe replacing some of the metal ones with wood. That's an option, or maybe not an option. There's a lot of flexibility here. So I just wanted to provide the information for you all to just kind of take in, and maybe next meeting we can talk more about it and see what everybody thinks. I've got the physical samples over here. If you want to maybe just get up and, yeah, you can get up and get close to it. See the reflectivity. So these are all 1-inch thick wood planks. They're made out of oak. We've got 2 coats of high quality exterior paint, and then there's 2 coats of the old paint or metal. And then the glass beads, if you look closely, you can see the texture. They're embedded in the paint. And at certain angles and certain lighting, you can definitely see the way that they reflect. These look rather large up close, but when you get them up on the sign, they become a lot smaller. And in fact, all the wooden plank signs are, I believe, 2x6 construction. These are 1x6. So these are a little bit thinner. No, this was, the mayor and I discussed this, and the mayor wanted to see some different examples of different fonts. So we picked, I think, 4, and then this was the original Shannon font, but this is the one we recommended.
Where's the California dealer plate available?
That's right here.
Oh, interesting. I like it. And may I ask, in your studies, thank you again for all your research. You said if it's a taller letter, it's more legible?
Well, this would be an example of that kind of lettering where you have a little bit more space between the letters, and you've got a good vertical height of the letter versus these. There's, see how close the A is to the B?
And this too, just all
Yeah,
runs
it
together.
kind of runs together. It's more of a blocky letter versus this being more vertical. And the other aspect too is they can thicken the text or thin it out very easily, just on request. They say, please make that bolder, and they can do that. It's very
Maybe
easy.
taller.
They can do that too. They can scale it differently. They can make it smaller. They can make it taller. They can stretch it out. A lot of options. The fonts are not the limiting factor here. Included in the price, which I had up on the screen there, and you have it in your paper packets, is this mounting hole. So you get a center hole as well. I'm not sure how that worked with the installations, Dave, if they needed that or.
Not very well, they had to manufacture a bracket, so I think, we were talking about trying to find some better brackets. You did all the work on the signs,
Okay.
maybe we can find the brackets.
So, yeah, I thought this would be a good way to kick off the conversation. You've seen the physical samples. You can certainly, if anybody would like to actually take one home and put it up somewhere just to see it, you're welcome to. It's not a problem. Try to, spread the word about Trowbridge. It's a great place to live.
Those will be in the basement.
So, yeah, that's all I had.
budget line item for this, or where would the funds come from?
Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention, the cost per sign, if you order 3 at a time, which is not a big deal, usually you'd probably want to bunch them up, is about $114 a sign,
Oh, it's very reasonable.
yeah. And you can get them in about 1 to 2 weeks.
Currently, we have, a line item in the local road fund, so I'm not sure what that amount is currently, but for what it maybe will be for next year, but I can do that.
Sure, you peck away at it each year, do it.
Yeah, yeah. Great. Do we need to have any further discussion about this, or any kind of, what's our next step with the process? Selecting a font and
Well, I think.
deciding on the wood
I think
versus
the next step would, would be to get agreement on, do we want to replace with a configuration like this? And if we do, then we would want to select a font and then I guess approve the pricing. Again, I don't know what the current signs replacement cost is. I'm guessing it's probably pretty close, if maybe a little bit less if they're metal.
Yes. It's close, but it's less.
Okay. But I think, when I look at the city and what it represents and the history, and I just feel like something like that really speaks to that, and it matches the quality of the city. And, nothing against the metal signs, I think they've been fine, but I think this better represents what the city is, and.
they're very handsome.
Yeah, I really like them. I think they're really sharp. As far as their durability, I mean, that's still probably a question, but
I was gonna ask, was there a consideration with the color of the lettering?
I tried to match what I saw that was existing in the city, which is more of a yellowish gold than a gold.
Yeah, I don't know.
Is there an official city gold color?
Yeah, it's black.
Phantom color.
Right.
I
What is
don't
the
know if
name of
is
it, do you know?
Visible though.
Yeah, I wouldn't have me personally a problem with that. It's just I look at what's out there, and if we're putting up signs that are, I wouldn't want the colors to be, majorly clashing
Oh, I see.
with
What's already there.
what's already there.
Aren't they all uniformly now black with gold lettering? I'm trying to think, Rudgate, isn't that what it is?
Well, the
They're all
pictures,
black?
all the
Yeah.
pictures that were in the presentation, you can kind of refer back to them. That's the color that you're seeing. That's what's out there.
So the brown is what I'm seeing? Your
That's-
samples are what we're looking at?
Those are black.
Oh, they are?
Yep.
Oh, that's funny. From here, they look like brown. Okay.
Yeah. Those are black with
Funny. Okay.
with the yellow lettering. I can't operate the presentation from here, but if we went back there, you could see that a lot of the signs existing are that yellowish color.
Because it's more visible against the black?
I think it's what's available in the letters that are purchased for.
Oh.
Yeah,
The vinyl letters?
the vinyl decals are.
Yeah.
So Dave, are you suggesting we go more gold?
I'm not suggesting, I just wanna, I don't wanna
You wanna go
throw a
there?
wrench into this, I just wondered about the color.
Could we ask them to do one in a Pantone real color?
Yeah, if you wanted to give me a color, I can have them do one.
Yeah, and maybe do a different sign that we need to get done anyway?
I have it in my office,
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I just was,
No, I think it's a good thing to look at. I think we should.
if you do it, then it's.
Yeah.
Is there an ability to recreate the finial? Only because it's, there are a lot of elements within the city of Bloomfield Hills that have been consistent. And I don't mind that we're going to wood or considering wood, but it'd be nice to have the finial so they, on some level, resemble what we've always done. I mean, is there a prefab finial that we can screw in at the top just to make it look complete?
We wanna find that solution.
That'd be it'd just be
I
a nice
agree.
thing. We're a small city, why wouldn't we have that element?
We've not found that solution.
I agree.
And we actually were talking about this morning, we appreciate all the work you did. The least we could do is try to find the brackets and the finial,
Well-
but we actually tried, it's difficult to find.
Yeah, I looked for it as well.
Did you?
Yeah, I was trying to find sign bracket companies, and I found basically everything that you probably found, which was for the metal signs, and there's very little out there like what you saw from the 1920s, you know, the stuff that,
And would it be in scale with the width of the board? You'd have to make sure, yeah.
yeah, it would have to be able to capture the width of the board. But yeah, I was not able to find anything out there. We could probably work with somebody to fabricate the brackets, and if we ordered enough, it may not be that expensive.
Yeah, the ones that are out there are aluminum, and we paint them black. The fabricated to hold up the example signs,
Yeah.
just because we wanted to get them up.
So could we do them more of them in the aluminum and paint them black? Or are you saying the
We
the
think,
black paint rubs off, as we saw in
well,
some of the pictures?
we actually think that the manufactured brackets that we did don't do the signs justice. We think that should be something better. We believe we should find a solution, including a finial,
Right.
that we have some stock of it, and then you guys decide what you want for the sign and the color exactly, and then we'll make it happen, bit by bit.
Great.
Yeah, I'll maybe take a deeper look into maybe some fab companies that could help us with that. Got some.
Yeah.
Collectively, we can figure it out. I'm pretty confident.
Great. Well, thank you again.
Okay.
It's exciting.
Well, thanks for
Good
listening.
thing for our city. Very good. If there's no further business, I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Second? I guess the city council meeting is adjourned. Our next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, June 10th, 2025. Thank you.
All right, great.